Hello everybody and welcome to Barbecuing with Buck. I hope everybody's doing good. Glad to see you back here and thank you for watching these videos. Tonight I'm going to do some brisket. I did not do the whole packers. I got the flats because where they're going, burn ends aren't as big of a deal. You can't do burn ends with just the flat. That's not that important, so we're going to skip that because it really cuts down on time. Right off the bat, you'll notice the fat caps on these are very thin. You really don't even need to trim these. I mean, you can if you so choose, but it's not necessary. This one as well, it already looks like it's been trimmed down some. The first thing we're going to do is, well, I'm going to switch out my glove. I'm going to inject some beef broth and Worcestershire sauce. I do about 3/4 of a solo cup of beef broth, and I add in probably about 3 to 4 teaspoons, depending on your liking, of Worcestershire sauce. And I do hope y'all appreciate my use of solo cups. It just shows how cheap I am. I have dishes everywhere, but I'll probably just break them. So solo cup it is. Now brisket, a lot is going to make it through. Don't expect to, have it hold as much liquid as, say, a turkey or a Boston butt or something like that. But we'll put a little in there and let it expand. Remember to give it that 3 to 5 seconds to settle down before you pull it out so everything doesn't follow you back. Go in there. Just feel around and see where you're going to be able to go in at. A little bit in there. Wait for it to settle. If you can get 3 or 4 good pokes in, you'll be good to go. Let that expand, and we're going to let it settle. Right here's a good example where you've got that shoulder meat. It's not going to hold that liquid very well. It's going to run out, but that's okay. It's going to go in the bottom, which is where our drippings are going to be anyway. And when we're done cooking this brisket, you can strain that, all the drippings that you have in the bottom. And what I like to do with it is mix it with a little bit of mushroom broth and make a nice au jus to go with your brisket. All right, we'll let that hold. That's probably going to be about all I'm going to get in there. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the sink. Otherwise, I'll just knock it off. So when it comes down to the rubs, everybody's got their preference. This is how I do mine. I do it slightly different if we're doing competition, but that's more so for a judging issue than it is for a flavor issue. The way I'm going to show you, I think, is better flavor. So this is Killer Hogs. You can also get possum rub, which is from near where I grew up. There's lots of different AP style rubs you can get with just a base, salt, pepper, garlic. And that's the trio we're looking for our base. Remember, everything we cook, we're building up to the flavor. So I never have just one flavor, and I never have just one layer. I like to stack them on top. So we're going to go ahead and pat that down. This is our fat cap side. It's least important. It's going to be the one facing down. So season it with both first, then we'll flip it over and we'll make sure we set a good crust on top. The way that I typically cook mine, I get the crust really, really good and done on top. The bottom is going to kind of be a little bit of a wash just because of the way the process goes. But everybody's going to see the top. That's where it's at anyway. This one is another one I purchased. I do make one similar to this. This one is Cattleman's Barbecue Rub Smokehouse. It is salt, pepper, and ancho chilies, and it is really good on a brisket. It helps set up a good thick crust. You've got lots of granular garlic in there. You've got those chunks of pepper, and you've got some fresh cracked black pepper as well. So we'll just get a good coat. You want it to be pretty even. And then we're going to flip them over to the money side. I'm always disappointed when I go to barbecue restaurants how few people know how to make good brisket. I am perfectly comfortable going on the record saying that good brisket could possibly cause peace in the Middle East. It can do just about anything. A good thing to remember if you're making brisket as well when you got to travel, I'd like to go ahead and pre-slice mine, and I set it back in that au jus that I made, and then between each slice, after it's cooled down, I'll put a little piece of butter all the way down the side, and then when I get to where I'm going, you can stick it in the oven or on a grill to reheat it, and that butter will help solidify that au jus that you're going to serve with it. It's really good if you're making like a French dip style sandwich with a brisket to have that there to dip with. It's definitely worth the time it takes to make it. Guys, right there's a good representation of what we've got going on. I've got my grill heated up outside to between 255 and 260. The way I like to do brisket is I put it on there and I let it ride. And once it gets internal temperature of about 180, I like to kick my heat up to about 270, 275. And I let that brisket go to an internal of 195 to 200. You'll be able to tell it. You can take a thermometer and push it and it'll slide in like butter. Pull it off, wrap it, let that thing rest for 30 to 45 minutes before slicing. You can't go wrong. Hey everybody, welcome back to Barbecuing with Buck. I hope everybody's doing okay. Tonight we got the brisket coming off. I'll go ahead and show you that. That's going to be one of them that come off. I've already sliced the other. That's why my knife and everything's a little messy already. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about with brisket. I think people overthink it too many times. Brisket is something that can definitely be cooked the day before. You can put it in a pan and leave it with a little bit of its natural juices. And then when you go to heat it up, you just add a little bit of butter to it. And I really like to use mushroom broth because it makes a really great au jus to go with it. But you can also cook more brisket than you need because it takes a lot of time. You're looking at 8 to 10 hours to cook a good sized brisket. And if you cook more than you need, freeze it the same day that you cook it. And it doesn't matter if it's 20 days down the road or 3 months down the road. You pull that out, add the mushroom broth and the butter to it, and you're going to be surprised how fresh that brisket's going to taste for you. So we'll go ahead and slice some of this up for you so you can see what we're working with. With my brisket, I always tell people between 195 and 200. But honestly, when you take a thermometer to it, you're going to know it's done. There's going to be no resistance when you go to push in. And that's something that you're going to learn with time. It's kind of like with ribs, where you do the bend test. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Don't be too hard on yourself at first. One great thing that I've seen Walmart do, and occasionally Ingles, is they sell a quarter of a brisket, which will cost you 10 to 12 bucks. Get a few of those, try them out before you go and pay 70 bucks for a full packer. Now these that we've got today, these are just the flats, so we don't have the big fat cap on them, and we don't have the other part of that muscle. But I wanted you to take a look at this, and you can see the smoke ring in that. That's not by accident. When you're cooking brisket, it's best to start out with a heavy smoke, like cherry or oak. And brisket's going to take smoke for a solid 2 to 3 hours before that bark sets. Once the bark sets, then that's a good time to wrap it in butcher paper if you have it. If you don't have it, then go ahead and wrap it in aluminum foil. That's better than nothing. Now, I like to set mine up, as you saw in the other video, on the cookie sheet, which works great for drying them out and getting a good crust. At about 100 to 110 degrees, somewhere in there. You'll fall in that category when you start temping them. Go ahead and take them off of that, wrap them in your butcher paper or wrap them in tinfoil, and go ahead and stick them down inside the pan in those juices and let them continue to cook. That's where it's going to be at. That's going to allow you, you're already going to have your bark set up, but that's going to keep your beef really nice and juicy so that you don't lose any of those flavors. And like I showed you in the other one, you can see on some of these, they've got the ancho chili on top with that coarse garlic and that coarse salt and pepper. It makes for a really nice crust. It's not as dark as you get a lot of times at corporate barbecue, but you know, corporate barbecue is what it is. Some people like it, and that's fine. But if you want a step better, then go ahead and make it yourself. Don't be afraid to jump out there and try it. When it comes to brisket, like I said earlier, a lot of people get nervous. If you have any questions about it before you get going, please let me know. You can either put it on Facebook, you can DM me, you can put it on my YouTube, or you can email me at rustydog1@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer your questions. This is a team effort, and I want to see you guys succeed barbecuing at home, because that's going to keep more people doing the craft. And the more people that do the craft, you know, the longer this thing is going to be preserved. So I'm going to hold this up for you, let you see a little bit of that slice. That took me about a little over 8 hours, about 8 hours and 15 minutes. And a lot of that was because I put it on before it gets super hot in the smoker. Some people prefer to put it on after it's all the way up to temp. I like to let it warm up because it smokes a lot more when you're getting it going. But I want to thank you guys for stopping by. As I just said, if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. And take care of yourself, and I'll see you at the next video. Have a good one.